if you were born deaf, would you ever be able to say anything? Would you be able to speak about your interest? Right?
If you were born deaf?
Deaf. If you haven't heard anything ever, would you be able to speak anything ever? What does that tell us about whatever we speak? So interest is the pile that builds up over time. You hear of something, you take that in, and then you start calling that as your interest, and loudly one proclaims, this is my interest. The moment you say something is yours, you are identified and associated with it.
Can't interest come from vision as well?
Where does vision come from? Is your vision really yours? Sans your background, sans all the influences that have worked on you since childhood over the last few decades, would there be a vision? Please. Even to enunciate the vision, you need words. I'm asking, is there a vision without words? Is there imagination without words? Please go into this. Can you imagine something that you do not name? And if you imagined something, haven't you already subtly named it? And is not each name a word? And if you don't have words, how do you imagine? And if you haven't heard anything, from where will you have words? So all imagination, all vision, and obviously all interests are dependent on what has gone into you via the sensory route. It's no surprise that people are often deaf and dumb both. Have you seen that physical condition? It's very common. You are both deaf and dumb. It's not surprising. Nothing has gone into you. How do you speak? Which means that whatever comes out of us is not really original. It's just being recycled, reprocessed, replayed. Comes in, get processed, comes out. And even the processing machine is very, very old. Both the hardware and the software of the processor are not something that you can really call as your own. Got it from somewhere. And that's why they keep changing. The physical structure of the brain, as well as the intangible conditioning on it, keep changing with time. In fact, it is quite predictable how they would change. You put somebody in a particular environment and you approximately know the effect the environment would cause on his thoughts, even on the physical structure of the brain. Now, are we something beyond the hardware and the software? That's the purpose of all spiritual inquiry. Are we something beyond interests and time? Or are we defined only by that which we have been taught to feel interested in? We aren't interested really in anything. We are programmed to be interested in a few things. Like a software, a computer program whose first line reads input n, and n has already been defined to be a certain kind of variable. If the input is anything other than the pre-specified definition, the program returns invalid input. I do not want to take this input. In other words, I am not interested in this input. The program already knows what it is supposed to be interested in. Input n, and n has already been defined by the programmer. Who is this programmer? It's another software that is writing the code. That's the whole network of Maya. Programs writing programs. And the programmer is unseen. The programmer is the network itself. That's why you were sent to the stalls, to see how the game of interest and time operates. If you have no time, you would have no interest. And if you have time, then all that you experience in the time is mistakenly classified as either your interest or your identity, your like or your dislike. Something that is valuable or something that has to be ignored. We accept, we reject without knowing who is accepting and who is rejecting, and obviously without knowing what is being accepted and what is being rejected. That also gives us a hint as to what is beyond the programming. When you are within the program, there is one thing that never really happens: knowing. So probably that is what is outside the programming. Knowing, realization beyond interest, realization beyond conditioning, realization beyond prejudice, realization beyond words and influences. And listening. If you don't have ears, you can't hear. But you can still listen. You're listening right now. That's a marked difference between day 1 and day 4. Hearing is incidental. Hearing was happening even on day 1. Hearing might be happening even now. I don't bother too much about that. But right now you are listening. It's possible for a deaf man to listen. He can't hear, but he may still listen. Listening is not dependent on sensory input.
So how do you start deciphering what words and actions of yours are coming from said program and which ones are genuinely coming from within? Is it a matter of monitoring and feeling, or?
You know that. You don't need to decipher. You know that. Experience itself tells you about the experiencer. So you don't need to interpret the experience. You just had an experience, right? You don't need to decode it or decipher it or analyze it. The experience itself tells you the state of the experiencer. You have been told that. Now just don't deny your own knowledge. Now don't lie to yourself that you do not know. You know. You do something out of fear. Don't you know that you have fear? You have done something because you are afraid. The very doing proves that you know that you are afraid. If you do not know that you are afraid, how could you do that thing? So when you do something from the center of fear, the doing itself proves the knowledge. You call me and I come to you. What is the proof that I hurt you? What is the proof that I could hear what you said? The fact that I came to him. You can never know whether I heard or not, right? You can never really know whether I heard you or not. But if you call me and I come to you, what does it prove? That I indeed did hear you. If fear calls you and you act on fear's behest, the action itself proves that the call of fear was heard, that you are afraid. So look at your actions. You know, you already know where they are coming from. You don't need a key. You don't need interpretation. It's so easy, you already know. To ask for additional or transcendental knowing is to deny the obvious fact that all knowing is inherent and innate. You don't need to transcend anything or anybody to know. It is there with you. You just want to deny its existence. Oh, you are so afraid. So you ask for a truth beyond the skies. You ask for then a fanciful truth. A truth from the world of circles and snakes. You're looking at food. Don't you know why you're looking at it? You're looking at a girl. Don't you know why you're ogling? And if you don't know, who the hell will know? You are the experiencer. You already know. Don't deny, don't cheat.